and hopefully this is going to be archived, and hopefully you'll use this and share this. We're covering a whole lot of ground. The basics of AI. We're going to talk about the legalities of using AI. We're going to talk about the ways to use AI because AI is complicated, but let's just have AI help us. So that's what we're going to talk about. So here's again the where the handout lies, because there's a lot of different stuff we're going to be covering. So we wanted to get started. Basically the theory is that, and this is from my state's library association, and this is the description on the Department of Ed, but this is sort of our roles as librarians, is that we want to make sure that students are both users and creators of ideas and information. So ideas and information, this to me is what this is all about. Not only that we're using an AI, but we're using it to create material. As you'll see, using and creating are a big part of what we're going to talk about with generative AI. And because there's so much stuff, I mean, we could spend 30 minutes just on the legalities of it. Spend 30 minutes just on prompts. I'm gonna blow through this fast, but here's again a document that has all the references, all the slides, everything you need to use it again. And I know I go fast. I grew up in Indiana, and I get to California, they go, "You're from New York because you talk fast." It's like, no, and I don't do caffeine either. So there you go. Anyway, so all this is here, but please jump in anytime if you have questions in chat. I won't be looking at it because I'm so easily distracted, but Megan will be filling it in. So the basics, how do you get these AIs? Basically, you sign up for them. They're like a service. They're, for the most part, free. They cost billions, literally billions to develop. So don't expect them to be free forever. There's one I pay for now that's pretty cool, graphic generator, because it's better. But you basically get these by signing up. And the links are all in the handout. Where? All in the handout, which if you want to sign these up. Let's get rid of one of the elephants in the room. Should students be able to use AI for schoolwork? To me, the answer is absolutely yes. It's a great leveler. When I was a math teacher, he was another great leveler. This is a scientific calculator. Should kids be able to use that? Yes. When calculators first came out, just the basic calculators, there was an educational debate whether kids should be able to use them or not. And there were places that banned calculators from students because they said, oh, they're supposed to memorize all this stuff, right? So that'll happen here. AI is sort of the same way. It's a tool that you cannot beat. And it's a great leveler for kids who don't have the skills that sometimes we ask kids to do. It's like a calculator. It helps everybody get to the place where we want kids to be. So to me, there's not really a debate. And for librarians, it's like, hey, here's what you do. If you're going to use it, cite it. Because teachers get nervous. Well, how do I know about a kid? It's like, just tell them they have to cite it. And then it leads into what we do anyway, which is like cite your sources. So, and you see two examples here. And you see, I think these actually came from MLA's site, but all the links are in the handout. But you see, if you paraphrase, if you ask it to describe the symbolism, if you ask ChatGPT to describe the symbolism, then you can use it, but just say that's where you got it. Again, work sites, paraphrase prose, all this stuff is there. So this link is there. But the idea is, as librarians, we can say, teachers, rest easy. People have been using other people's insights and ideas for a very long time. We require them to be cited. Otherwise, it's plagiarism. So cite it. It's interesting because ChatGPT and the other generative AIs are generative. We'll talk about that in a second. Yes, they are very smart. They have passed the bar exam. They can pass medical exams. They were able to get an MBA from Wharton. Anyway, you see all the stuff that's here. It's kind of fun to note that if you ever had trouble with calculus in college or high school, calculus hadn't been invented when I was in high school. Okay, making that up. But you see that ChatGPT, it's the thing it has the most trouble with. It's like humans beat ChatGPT 4 even on AP calculus. So just so you know, it's not just you that had trouble. Anyway, it's very smart. How did it get so smart? Well, this is my house, and I have a lot of books because as soon as I could afford it, I started buying books because I love books, and I have all of these, and I have these in the room you see behind me now. I have books over by the lamp, and I have books by my thing, and I have my Kindle. And anyway, if I read them all, how smart would I be? Well, here's what ChatGPT has read. generative AIs have read in general, the books from all these libraries. It's read all those books and all those books and all these books. And you get the idea. It's read everything that's online, and not just the books that have been digitized, but also podcasts, because it knows how to decode podcasts now and information that it can then take and spit back. Also YouTube, also blogs and radio. If it's online somewhere, then ChatGPT has read it or is reading it. Now, it goes up to, I think, 2021, but that's how it got so smart. And if you look at people, well, let's look at this. It was trained on 45 terabits of data. Give me a 1, 2, or 3 in the chat. How many lifetimes would it take a human to read 45 terabits of data? 10 lifetimes, 500,000 lifetimes. There's only one lifetime. What do you in the chat? What do you think? Well, Mr. Davidson, you just revealed the answer. But yeah, it would take 500,000 lifetimes to read that much data. ChatGPT 4, which is another one, is actually 1,000 times bigger. And it kind of gets 1,000 times bigger every year. So pretty soon it'll have read more than every person on Earth. Which if you want to know how it got so smart, that's it. What's the difference between GPT-3 and GPT-4? It's about $20 a month. That's the difference. So you can get the other one. Now, as somebody pointed out in the last session, these generative AIs can hallucinate. That's what they call it now, hallucinations, where it gives you the wrong information. So, example, I have many books in my library. Some of them have conflicting information. So I ask, for example, this is somebody that I thought I may have met in the 80s. How it came up is a long story, but this is a guy's real name. He wrote some movies and stuff that you've seen. So I ask it twice. And if you keep in the same conversation, it pays attention to what it said before. Otherwise, it has no memory of a goldfish. So I ask it twice. Once it said, hey, he was born June 23rd, 1952, very specific. The other time it said February 4th, 1954. Grew up in Queens, had him graduate from 2 different universities. I know that one of those is wrong because I kept looking. He doesn't have much of a digital footprint. I kept looking, but he did a video interview with Queens, which is where he actually, I'm sure, went to school. So why is that? It's because the G in ChatGPT, other things, is for generative. It makes stuff up. So that's what it is. It's not like Google. It's not like a search engine that will go out and find information and give it to you. It makes stuff up based on stuff it's read. Makes it up. So that's bad if you're a lawyer, because a lawyer had ChatGPT write a brief, and ChatGPT wrote a pretty good brief. But when it came to the citations, as seen in Johnson versus American Airlines or Smurvey versus Jones, it knew it's supposed to have that, so it just made some up. It knew how to write one, so it just made them up. Anyway, it cost the lawyer $5,000 because the judge and the opposing counsels were not amused that ChatGPT had written the brief. So that's a legal issue. If you're looking for citations, ChatGPT is not really your friend. You probably want to use Neva. You can learn more from Bing. There are different search engines. There's one really great trick that I'm about to show you. It's only a week old, but it's really good. But these are places that will share where it came from. And notice, Bing doesn't tell you it got it from there. It just says, learn more here. That's different than a citation. Neva says, we generated it using these. And you can ask for stuff and say, Neva anyway, you can say, using Wikipedia, tell me blah, blah, or other citations. None of them seem to have access to online libraries, which I thought was cool because I tried them all out and they all said they couldn't do that. I didn't try Neva though. Anyway, here's something that's very, very cool if you're worried about the accuracy of the information. Bard, which is Google's answer to ChatGPT, they created their own search engine. So I did a search to tell us the impact on a school that results when a school librarian is a leader in AI use, and it gave me this answer, which is pretty cool. We'll talk more about the answer later. But a little button appeared at the bottom, and when I clicked on the G, it went out and took all the statements in its answer and checked it against the web. It Googled all of its own statements. So instead of you having to go out and say, let's see if this is true, it did it for you. And if it said, yep, it looks like a Google search tends to validate this, it highlights it in green. And if it says, you know what, might have a problem here, some different content. It puts it in that kind of orangey peach. So this is a really cool tool. So if you use Bard, you can use the web, Google, to check the results. How many people think that's cool? Raise your hand. I can only see one person. So Jen, you have to raise your hand because I'm looking at you. I think that's cool. Okay, yeah, it's good. So this is what you came to this workshop to learn, right? Anyway, thank you, Christy. Thank you, raising your hand. Anyway, that's Bard. Learned that about a week ago. So let's get now to how to use it in the right way. I talked about at the beginning about how it's like a VCR. An AI is really an empty shell, and you get it to do what you want by giving it a prompt. This is the prompt that I use, and the prompt is the key to generative AI. So a better way to demonstrate this is not with text, which I've been using before, but with graphics. So DALL-E 2, for example, is a graphic generator. So it is generative, but it generates pictures instead of text. Really, really kind of cool. So here's some that I ask it to create, and I want you to think about, I'll ask you later, what prompt I would have used to have gotten this. This is a generative AI. I ask it for something. I ask it for dragons, but how did I ask it for dragons? I'm going to think about that. And then it gave me all these things. So it's all about the prompt. When if you were here for the keynote, which had its amusing moments, I like to think, this is a thing I said was my picture. And I got that from DALL-E when I asked it for this. This is the prompt. And the prompt's the thing. Notice it's got a subject, it's got adjectives, it's got a medium, right? Mosaic is a visual style. So is computer graphics. So is watercolors. So is Vermeer, right? I can ask it to have given me a picture of myself as if done by Vermeer. So this is how you engineer, that's the term, engineer a prompt. And do people know this, and do they know how to use it? No. So this is a thing that we can sort of own. Here's kind of a fun one. You want a picture of the US president. A prompt, if you look at the visual style, can change things. So here's a prompt that asks for every US president as a Pixar character. So somebody tweeted this out. It's all this is in the handout, but here's what it looked like, which is kind of cool.
Paul, we have a question. Christy asked, do you know if Bard will be getting an app? It looks like Bing has one.
Be getting an app?
Yeah.
It has an app, but it only does the stuff I showed you if you use the web-based version. There is an app, and you could at least I've used the app. I haven't used it on my phone. I've used it on my computer, but you get more stuff if you use the stuff on the web-based. Anyway, so this is Pixar. You get it. You can look at more. This was a generic kind of ask. If you load the prompt up more, if you ask for Teddy Roosevelt as a trust buster, you might get something like this, right? So it's fun to play with, and it's all about the prompt. And we're going to talk about that. Here's another prompt. This is on their site. And look at this. It's got a medium. It's a photo. It's got lots of adjectives. It's got a verb in there. It's got good nouns. And this is what it'll give you. And these are not photographs. These are generated by, in this case, DALL-E. So it looks like a photograph because I ask it to make it look like a photograph. If I went back and asked tomorrow, it would give me all different pictures. I mean, I've never had it show me the same one twice, but this is what they can be. So pretty cool pictures. It's not going out and finding pictures of Samoyeds and cats. It's generating them based on things that it's seen as it trolled the web about what that dog, what the breed of the dog is and what the breed of the cat is. Anyway, you get the idea. So what do you think the prompt would have been? Just put in the chat what you think I might have used as a prompt to get these pictures of dragons. What do you think I asked for? These are all different. And by the way, this will lead us into some of the legalities and stuff. So that's kind of fun. Anybody want to throw one out there? I don't see the chat changing. I'm not looking. I'm letting Megan do that.
Fire-breathing dragons.
Yeah, that's good.
Fire-breathing dragon, Game of Thrones style, dragon roaring.
You are a very clever group. And here's what it was, is yes, I asked for a dark digital art rendering, full body menacing Game of Thrones. Anyway, you see that I had to keep tweaking this to get what I wanted. And I was doing it because I was trying to replicate the one in the center top, because that's actually done by an artist. And I was trying to replicate that. And that leads us to a legal issue we're going to get to later. But yes, so prompts do it. Prompts are very cool. Mid-Journey, which you have to pay for, I like even better for generating prompts. Another cool thing just to know, if you're doing involved with the yearbook, is you could not just generate images, you could upload images. So I was working with a superintendent. This is a superintendent in Napa. And I said, send me a picture. So I took the picture, I uploaded, I erased everything but her face, Dr. Barbara Nemko, everything but her face. And then I said, what have you always wanted to see yourself as? She said, Tinkerbell. So I did Tinkerbell, but I had her flying over a vineyard because she's the superintendent of Napa County. And it gave me all these cool things. So that is her, as I think, it's kind of cool to play with this stuff. That's the one she kind of picked as her own one. Notice the fingers are tricky because when it searches the web for fingers, sometimes it sees hands like this, or, so it's not great at hands. A lot of five-legged cows. Anyway, that's prompt engineering. It's building a prompt to get what I wanted. And I was looking for pictures, but the same is true for text or for coding or for lesson plans or for letters to parents or transportation plans, whatever you're doing. And here's the joke, it's like prompt engineer. I'm always on time. No, it's these prompts. And this is a guy and you see this statements like this all the time. Half the job is going to be prompt engineering. It's really true that if you don't know how to work with an AI and write prompts, you're probably going to be in a different status. So we can help move people in that direction. Our schools can be ahead of everybody else. And here's the thing that'll help you. Prompt generation can be difficult. It took me a long time sometimes to write those prompts. So here's the solution. I used AI to use AI. You can build perfect prompts for anybody you work with if you give them this. So this is a paragraph. It's in the handout. You can copy and paste this and put it in ChatGPT. And basically you're telling it, help me write the perfect prompt for what I want. And you put in one prompt, or let's say a math teacher puts in a prompt, I want to write a lesson plan on perimeter versus circumference. This is asking prompt GPT to look at the prompt and then write a better prompt, and then write the better prompt, and then write a better prompt. So it walks you through. It suggests better prompts. And when I did that, this was a check that I did. For example, it might say to the math teacher, what grade level? It might say, how long is the period? It might say, what's their level of mathematics literacy? Anyway, that's a better prompt. And then ChatGPT would have written the math teacher, a better lesson plan. And it can write some really good lesson plans, by the way. So I use this prompt. How can it use ChatGPT to private literacy? But first I had pasted in that prompt helper. And then here's what it did. It's like, here are 3 sections of your prompt. 1, to improve reading skills. It's like literacy. Okay, well, it asked me to specify the reading skills and then gave me suggestions on what my prompt should say, what my prompt should select. So I wrote a new prompt and it gave me a different one. It eventually said, how long have you got as a librarian with these students? Made it 1 hour. Anyway, so it kept helping me suggesting a better prompt, which I'd give it, and then it would give me a better prompt, which I'd then give it, I'd fix it, and then put it back in, and it got pretty good. So anyway, this paragraph is in there. All you got to do is do it. So that's the prompts. And yes, I got that from Medium, but it's in the handout. So if you give that to anybody, they'll be able to have to practice a little bit, but not that much. They'll be able to generate some killer prompts to get what they want that'll best meet the needs of their students, best meet the needs of your community using ChatGPT. So your prompt engineering, we all become sort of prompt engineers. By the way, prompt engineering librarian jobs out on the web pay very, very well. I've got searches, but we don't have time for that. Anyway, I asked it to give me examples of good and bad prompts, so it did. This is also in the handout. So the difference between a good and bad prompt, And the difference will be what you get out of ChatGPT. You want a really killer lesson plan, you got to really give it a lot of good information. You got to tell it what grade it is and how long the period is and what the students are like. So all those things are really important. If you want some examples of prompts people have used, this is a Padlet from a workshop that I didn't do. I'm a member of the organization, Q in California. Joe Marquez is their innovative learning specialist. And this is the Padlet. The link is in there, but take a look at the prompts that they did. So these are all prompts people have used. Sometimes they're music teachers and they generated a program. Sometimes they are biology teachers. And you can see this is the prompt you give ChatGPT. You are a 10th grade biology teacher. This is a really cool one to make ChatGPT be a tutor. So you're a friendly and helpful tutor. Your job is to explain to the user in a clear and straightforward way. You're going to be positive. You're not going to question the number. Anyway, this is a prompt that you can copy. Is it in the handout? Why, yes. You can copy and paste this, put it in, and then see what it's like to have ChatGPT as a tutor. Could this work for somebody going into the library to have help? Yes. So check it out, though. Man, that's what I say. You can check it out. Here's another cool one. Karen at the beginning, if you were here at the beginning, said, would you rather talk to your favorite author or your favorite character? Well, you can have ChatGPT talk to you like it's Ben Franklin. In fact, there are conversations you can have a conversation. This wasn't ChatGPT, it was another one. It's in the handout. You could have Ben Franklin chat with one of Ben Franklin's biographers, not his own autobiography, but a biographer. And you see this conversation where they ask questions back and forth because it's read everything about Ben Franklin, basically, everything that you and I have anyway. So all of these are prompts that will help you get better results, and they're all in the handout. Okay, so let's talk about the legal parts. What? The last group was very interested in the legal part of using generative AI. So the legal stuff is evolving, as you can imagine. And the law, of course, depends on lawmakers to understand this and write laws. And they are not close to that. Companies and other places are getting closer. There's a lot of legal stuff that we don't have time to talk about in the doc. But here's one. This is a kid that wrote, I call him a kid, a young person, February of this year, wrote a comic book, Zariah of the Dawn. Now, if you ask, and this is one of the links in the handout, if you ask ChatGPT to write you a book, you have to be very specific about what you want, the time period the hero. So write a pretty darn good book. This kid wrote the book, and he asked a graphics generator to do the illustrations. So the U.S. Copyright Office in February, or at least it was reported in February, said you can copyright the book, you can't copyright the images. Why? Because it turns out the way the guidelines are written, the way the law is written, is that you have to be human to get a copyright. So ChatGPT, not a human. So it can't copyright anything, and you can't copyright what it did. So what if we transform it? I mean, lots of questions that we get all the time, but that's an interesting thing. So law is evolving. Here's another thing. This is the dragon. You see that there's my, I'll just call him Greg Witkowski, but he did the drawing next to him there. That's the one you saw. And I was trying to replicate that. And you see down below is one of the ones I used to replicate. And he said, you do a search for Game of Thrones dragons. He said, what you're going to get is my art. My art, it's online. He said, so you're basically plagiarizing my work. So he's suing. We'll see. That's the documentation's in the handout, but we'll see where that goes. It hadn't gone anywhere yet, but it's interesting. Writers are the same way. If you ask ChatGPT to write a one-page paper on the dangers of plastic in the environment in the voice of Sarah Silverman, who's a comedian, comic writer, it'll do that. Kind of scary. In the handout as an example, there was an intern that fed the work of the editorial staff. This is at the Los Angeles Times, and then asked ChatGPT to write in the style of each person an article. And one of the editorial writers said, "Wait, when did I read that? When did I write this? What the?" And then realized they didn't write it, but he said, Topic sentence sure looks like something I do. Anyway, it can do it. Should it do it? I don't know. It can. What are the guidelines? We don't have those guidelines yet. Is it satirical? Could be, I guess. It depends on where you look at it. So we're back in the same copyright bag we've always been in, where we're mired in a gray area. Anyway, you guys do with music. There's a guy called Fake Drake, and makes music using the Make It app. So who owns it? ChatGPT can't copyright its work. DALL-E can't copyright its work. What people that use it, it's evolving. So it's kind of like information. So let's finish talking about creativity. Creativity is one of the things. Oh, AI is going to computers, robots are not creative. So they began to test. Wharton did this, and they have with the MBA students. They say create a product that might catch the imagination of the world and so forth. And then they asked ChatGPT to do the same thing. Summary is there wasn't even close. ChatGPT, the AI, did a way better job at creating new stuff. So you can use AI to be creative. Again, using the prompts. I wanted a prompt to put in DALL-E. So it wasn't actually me. I wanted a prompt to put in DALL-E to create something interesting on the beach. So I asked it to give more details than my original prompt. Make it crazy. So ChatGPT said, group of people playing volleyball with a giant flamingo. I put that into a graphic generator and it gave me this. So I asked for a creative use of people on the beach, and this is what the AI did. It's pretty creative anyway, interesting. So you can do that. This is a guy that asked his patrons, he's an artist, asked for patrons to come up with ideas, visual ideas. Then he puts it in DALL-E, projects the image onto a sneaker, and then paints it and decorates the sneaker. All original, all art done by an artist, but created with them in LA. So there's a lot of ways to do it. This is we're going to watch this for 1 minute, and then we're going to take a pledge. Bard is new. This was posted on the 19th of this month. But take a look at what Google has done with Bard.
It's hard to make an idea come to life when the information you need is in different places. But now you can collaborate with the world's information and your own, all in one place with Bard. With extensions, Bard can now connect to Google's apps and even gives you the option to pull in your own information. Make it all come together. Like when you're making a plan.
Anyway, so you get the idea. Bard, I've done this, can search your Gmails because it's a Google product. So it won't do it unless you ask it, but if you do, you can find that email from your Uncle Fred about what Helen wanted for her birthday or something like that. It'll go in and find it, which is pretty cool if your Gmail inbox looks like mine. Anyway, that's how that stuff works. This is when I ask it to be a little creative and tell me how school librarians can lead AI. These are the five suggestions it gave me. Do a professional development. Please do. Steal this one. Curate those prompts, right? I'm a math teacher. Here's a prompt you might want. I'm physical education. I don't know how to do that, but here's a prompt to help you make a better prompt. Anyway, all this is stuff you can do. And it's said in summary, school librarians can help ensure their schools are prepared for the future of AI. Anyway, so AIs are very impressive with librarians. All right, so we're at the end. You've listened to a lot of information, and now you're ready for the pledge. So Megan, you have to come off mute. I wish everybody could, but everybody needs you to raise your hand. And Jen, I can see you, so you have to do this. All right, so raise your hand and repeat after me. I solemnly swear.
I solemnly swear.
When I return to my school or district.
When I return to my school or district.
I will identify or become the artificial intelligence coordinator.
I will identify or become the artificial intelligence coordinator.
Because your school need one. And basically the duties consist solely of paying attention. So you can be the coordinator in your school. Because believe me, there's not one there now. And the only thing coordinators have that you don't have is a name tag. So if you would like this name tag that says AI coordinator, magnetic, it'll go on, won't ruin any fabrics. It's a nice one. artificial intelligence coordinator. If you'd like this and you send me your mailing address, I will send you this. This is only valid today because these are not that cheap. And this is going to be archived. So if you weren't here September 26th, you do not get one unless you come to a workshop sometime. Anyway, so that's it. Thanks very much for coming. I would love for you to put comments in the chat. This workshop changes about every 2 days. Would love to know what you thought was important, what you didn't think was important. And thank you very much for coming. And thanks for coming and enjoying this day.